Hello and welcome to this edition of Northwest Newsweek. It was a historic day in Sioux Lookout Thursday as residents and staff of the community's long-term care home began receiving vaccinations for COVID-19. It's the first facility in the Northwest outside of Thunder Bay to do so, and as Adam Riley reports, the arrival of the Moderna vaccine is allowing officials to breathe a sigh of relief.
And with that, 85-year-old Eunice Fiddler, the mother of Nan Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler, became the first resident at the William A. George Extended Care Facility to receive a vaccination for COVID-19. Facility Administrator Cynthia Dwyer says after months of tension and concern, watching the vaccinations begin was amazing and a blessing.
We have to be diligent. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Be diligent. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And finally, we are now seeing the light.
The vaccine arrived in Sioux Lookout Wednesday evening by air and was delivered to the facility by Orange, which has been tasked by the province to deliver vaccines to Northern Ontario. For Orange Operations Manager Ron Laverty, this duty hits very close to home.
My mother-in-law is a patient in the hospital here, and she's one of the at-risk people that's going to receive the vaccination, and it's a relief. And it's sort of like the culmination of, for all of us, I mean, all of the people that have worked so hard in the last year due to COVID, all of the changes we've had to make in our lives, and this is a real breath of fresh air.
Staff at William A. George were also given their first dose of the Moderna vaccine. That honor went to Tom Chapman, who is an interpreter at the facility. Karen Parent is another one of the key figures involved in getting the vaccine to Sioux Lookout and recalls the moment she got word that the vaccine would be arriving.
Oh my goodness, New Year's Eve, let me tell you, that was wonderful. I was just really excited and of course sworn to secrecy between Heather and myself, so it was a little internal celebration.
Heather Lee is the CEO of the Menoyawin Health Center, which runs William A. George. She says a key delivery component is having staff who work in long-term care deliver the vaccine to allow for as smooth of an inoculation as possible.
So to be here with people that they know, who care for them day in and day out, who they trust, is really important, because when we have to go elsewhere or other people are coming in that they don't know, it's a very frightening experience for them and can really create some dilemmas for them.
Over the next few days, almost 550 doses of the Moderna vaccine will be administered to residents and staff of both the William A. George Extended Care Facility and the Menoyawin Health Center, after which it will be a 21-day wait before the second round of inoculations can begin. Adam Riley, TBT News.
The province has extended Northern Ontario's lockdown measures for another 2 weeks. The one exception is schools, but the main lockdown, which was supposed to end January 9th, has been extended till January 23rd. The Thunder Bay's top doctor is welcoming the news as she had recommended the extension to provincial officials. Ryan Bonazzo reports.
We can have a very significant and rapid increase in case numbers.
Medical Officer of Health Dr. Janet DeMille asked the province to extend lockdown measures in our region, and that's what happened on Thursday afternoon. The restrictions that have been in place since Boxing Day will now remain in effect until at least January 23rd. As our active case numbers go down, DeMille still has a number of concerns.
Healthcare system capacity, allowing time for the vaccine to roll out. Certainly the vulnerability of long-term care homes and retirement homes. We've seen a number of outbreaks recently. Fortunately, most of them have been manageable, but obviously one that's very significant, and I want to buy time to get that vaccine here, those high-risk groups to be immunized.
While the number of active cases here has been mostly declining over the last couple of weeks, Dr. DeMille says she remains very nervous as she looks at surging cases elsewhere in the province. She notes Thunder Bay has been the exception rather than the rule, and our situation can change in a hurry. We're right in the period of time that any spread that may have occurred over the holidays will begin to present itself in the case numbers.
The gatherings that people might have had, you'll have to look sort of 2 weeks after that. If somebody caught COVID from a gathering, they might become symptomatic within those 2 weeks and hopefully get tested. So it can be, especially in that second week before we actually get that positive test. So we're still in a bit of that watchful waiting period right now.
Ryan Bonazzo, TBT News.
In response to Thursday's events in Sioux Lookout, the medical officer of health for the Northwestern Health Unit is happy to see vaccinations for COVID-19 happening in the region. Dr. Kit Young-hoon says vaccinating vulnerable populations like seniors and those who care for seniors is very important. However, when it comes to administering vaccines for those outside of care homes and other medical facilities, she says it's still an ongoing conversation with the province as to when the rest of the region might see a steady supply of vaccines.
At this point, I know they are limited by information that they get from the federal level. And so we're in constant communication with them and looking to see what's happening provincially and waiting for that information, that sort of concrete information and numbers and when to come to us.
Young-hoon adds conversations are also being held locally between the health unit and its partners on the best way to roll out the vaccines when they arrive. Meanwhile, the NWHU still has a number of cases in its catchment area. The district's total active cases is at 36 as of Friday. 22 of those are in the town of Kenora, and the remaining are in Rainy River. On Wednesday, Kenora area saw its largest single-day spike with 13 new cases. All of them were from close contact to existing cases. Dr. Kit Young-hoon says many of those are related to Christmas and holiday gatherings and believes that more could still come in.
Our case numbers are increasing and they're not coming down at this point. And, I don't think we've seen the full effect of what has occurred over the Christmas season. So the interactions during the Christmas season is likely still yet to show up in our numbers.
Young-hoon says she doesn't believe the rise of COVID-19 in Rainy River and Kenora is at all linked to their close proximity to the Manitoba border. After a spike in cases, it was announced this week that a staff member at the Atikokan General Hospital tested positive. That prompted officials to declare an outbreak in its extended care wing. Michael Mahorovich reports.
As of Friday, the Rainy River District has a total of 14 active cases of COVID-19. One of those cases is a staff member at the Atikokan General Hospital, which affected the facility's extended care wing. CEO George Van Slyke says while there is a very low risk to residents, they are taking no chances due to how the hospital is set up.
We share staffing. We're one operation, extended care or long-term care, acute care, emergency, outpatients. We're all one building, one operation. So even though there's very minimal risk to the residents, very low threshold, we just declare it as an outbreak. And right now we're just doing everything that we can possibly do to make sure that we will mitigate all those risks.
Van Slyke adds the outbreak hasn't really affected operations, as the hospital has been preparing since March of last year for a situation like this. In a release, the hospital says it's working with the Northwestern Health Unit in regards to the outbreak. However, when asked about Atikokan, the region's medical officer of health, Dr. Kit Young-hoon, declined to provide specifics at the hospital.
So Atikokan is part of the Rainy River District and part of the communities affected by the increasing number of cases. So there is increasing risk in Atikokan that residents of Atikokan need to be aware of.
As well, the hospital will be able to provide quick testing as they have a biofire torch unit capable of performing priority tests in a timely fashion. However, Van Slyke says there are some final touches needed before AGH can begin processing tests.
It still needs to be validated, so we're working on that. And we're hopeful that soon we'll be able to use that every time we have concerns. Or we have to be very strict with the category of what we're going to use it for because we have very limited lab staffing, but hopefully we can use it sooner.
Michael Mahorovich, TBT News.
Last month, COVID-19 cases surged in the town of Rainy River, and while it appears everything is under control now, the entire district remains under the microscope. Adam Riley has details.
A wake-up call. That is what Rainy River Mayor Deb Ewald is calling last month's surge of COVID-19 cases in that community. On December 23rd, an outbreak was declared at Riverview Manor, one day after the Northwestern Health Unit announced an increase in COVID-19 activity in the Rainy River District, specifically in the town of Rainy River. Ewald says the announcement and outbreak all came as a shock for residents.
After a while, when you have nothing, people get kind of complacent a little bit. But now it's like if you look down the streets, it's very quiet and people have their masks on, and they're following the rules now, which people have to do.
Ewald is hopeful of the coming months following the arrival of Moderna vaccine shipments in Sioux Lookout. Another area of concern listed in December was an exposure risk at a grocery store in Emo, which was considered very small. The region's medical officer of health, Dr. Kit Young Hun, says the Rainy River District is being closely monitored, adding while the daily case number increases have trickled to 1 or 2 per day, the situation is not improving.
We have also noted that there's some cases that are not linked to other cases, so we are watching those more closely to see if there's broader community transmission. So I wouldn't know the situation is not getting better.
Over the holidays, an outbreak was also declared at the Rainy Crest long-term care home in Fort Francis, following a resident in the home testing positive. That facility, along with the Emo Health Center and the Rainy River Health Center, each of which have areas dedicated to long-term care, have implemented new restrictions, including canceling general visits and limiting residents to only one designated caregiver. Adam Riley, TBT News.
A family in Marathon has lost their home after a fire burned it to the ground. The blaze broke out on Poplar Crescent just before the noon hour Thursday. When Marathon fire crews arrived, they found the home totally engulfed in flames. Fortunately, no one was injured as a mother, her son, and the family dog managed to escape. The cause of the fire is now under investigation. Meanwhile, a family in Nipigon has also been left homeless after a major fire destroyed their residence Monday morning. According to family and friends, the blaze broke out in the early morning hours at the home on Wadsworth Drive. A mother and her 3 young children all managed to make it out safely, but they lost just about everything and have been forced to find temporary residence. The Nipigon Baptist Church has organized a donation and clothing drive for the family, and a GoFundMe has also been set up with a goal of $5,000 to help the family get back on their feet. The operator of Canada's newest gold mine has poured its first gold bar, and it happened right here in northwestern Ontario. Vancouver-based Pure Gold Mining announced that the first pour at its Red Lake mine occurred on December 29th. That gold bar has a value of around $500,000. The company says with their first gold pour, they've delivered on a promise to build Canada's newest gold mine in the heart of Red Lake on budget and on schedule. Pure Gold expects to begin commercial production by the end of the first quarter of this year. The mine in Red Lake is the only gold mine in Canada to come into production in 2020. Pure Gold President Darren Lebrenz said COVID-19 obviously provided many challenges for production, but the mining experience in the region helped out a lot in the long run.
Protecting the workforce, and we really benefit from the region. You know, being in northwestern Ontario, it's such a rich area with respect to skills available to, to build a mine and operate a mine. We're not seeing a camp operation. We're not seeing fly in, fly out. There's limited movement in and out of site and in and out of the community, and so all of that benefits benefits us as a company, but it also benefits the community with respect to reducing the risk of transmission.
The underground mine has a projected life of about 12 years and will employ an estimated 340 people at peak production. And when we come back, recent warm temperatures have police cautioning residents about ice conditions on waterways. It's been unseasonably warm over the last couple of weeks, and that's prompted the OPP to issue warnings to the public about venturing out onto frozen waterways. The recent lockdown has prompted many to take the lakes and rivers to enjoy the outdoors. However, Constable Jim Davis says current ice conditions appear to be more as they are during the spring as opposed to early January. So far, the OPP has had to respond to one water rescue in the Fort Frances area, and they're now advising residents to be vigilant and be prepared before going out onto the ice.
Without having that really cold weather we have during the winter typically, we're not seeing the ice being made that is normally made for this time of year. So we are concerned with members of the public recreating on the waterways, and we're concerned that they should be taking extra safety precautions, ensuring that they're wearing floater suits, ensuring that they're doing some trip planning with their family members and people know where they're going.
Davis notes that in addition to people who fall through the ice, those who come to the rescue also put their lives in danger. The township of Schreiber is facing $1.5 million in necessary upgrades to its sewer treatment plant and continues to search for funding streams that could cut down the hefty price tag. Town leaders say it's an issue they've known about for years, but a report from the federal government means the updating needs to take place. Between May and November, chlorine gas is used to treat the water at the plant, and they will soon have to make the permanent switch to ultraviolet. Mayor Dave Hamilton says they continue to lobby for help from both upper levels of government, but available funding streams don't come close to covering that $1.5 million.
We certainly don't have those kind of reserves on hand. And we do have to comply. So if I suppose the worst case scenario is we'd have to go out and borrow the entire amount, which would be devastating to our taxpayers, which is why we desperately need this funding.
Hamilton says the work must be complete before the end of 2021. A revitalized waterfront has officials with the town of Terrace Bay hopeful that they can bounce back after a restricted tourism season this past summer. Work continues on the shores of Lake Superior, where the municipality is building a pavilion to serve a number of purposes, inside and outside multi-use space, plus office buildings. The $3.4 million project also includes a boardwalk that extends to nature trails along the shore. Like most areas across Canada, Terrace Bay saw an influx of Canadian tourists with only a handful of visiting Americans, and Mayor Jody Davis hopes this can draw more of whoever's allowed in the country this coming summer.
We get really good feedback about the whole North Shore of Lake Superior, and in particular the beach area and the gorge and that sort of thing. So we want to build on that to make Terrace Bay more of a tourist destination, along with the whole North Shore, working together to make the North Shore a better tourist destination.
Davis says budget constraints meant some lower priority items like road paving won't be done until the project proves its worth and can then receive more funding from upper levels of government. Also in Terrace Bay, the town has completed rehab on one stretch of road, making it safer for those traveling to the town's major employer. A widening of the Mill Road has recently been completed. Aside from the Trans-Canada, the stretch of new pavement may be the busiest road in the town of 1700 as it leads to the pulp mill. It now has 3 lanes instead of 2, and paved shoulders will allow for a safer ride for many locals who ride their bikes to work in the warmer months. Due to the heavy volume of traffic, it was key to the municipality that road remain open while the work was going on.
There was very little disruption of traffic going to the mill and from the mill, and also it's a major thoroughfare through the back road up to Long Lake and to Geraldton. So it's used by a lot of people 24 hours a day.
The mill directly employs over 300 individuals. And coming up after the break, residents in the Fort Frances area get a special night sky show. A rare astronomical sight was on display Wednesday night for many in the western parts of the region. Multiple people reported seeing a bright blue-green colored meteor light up the night sky. These 3 videos show the meteor traveling through the sky at around 8:30 Central Time before burning up. The bright light was reported as far west as Winnipeg and as far east as Fort Frances and Dryden. Many residents assumed they were seeing an odd lightning strike as it brightened their yards. Brianna Jones of Fort Frances didn't initially see the bright light, but was informed by her father to check out her motion-detecting security cameras at home.
He said he just saw a really big green meteor in the sky, so he got really excited about it and checked his cameras, but he didn't catch it, so he asked me to. I only live a couple blocks away from him, so he asked me to check my cameras.
Jones says she's always been interested in astronomy, and capturing this meteor may be the push she needed to purchase a telescope and further explore the night sky. The municipality of Marathon will soon play a broader role in the maintenance and upgrades of its boat launch, and boaters will be footing the bill. The town's boat launch received over $330,000 from the federal government to upgrade the site a few years ago and will soon take over its responsibilities. Previously, volunteers with the Marathon Marina Boat Club looked after its grounds, and there was no charge to use the space. With the town now taking up the mantle, users of the launch will have to pay. Administration brought a report to council on suggestions for user fees that didn't sit well with those around the table.
The number was brought to us at about $198, comparable to the golf course trail permit. We said no, that seemed to be a bit too high because it was a brand new fee. So we asked the administration to go back, talk to the Marina Boat Club members, and have some dialogue over the next month or so. So in January we'll have a report back to identify what is the right number for the first year, and then going forward we'll adjust as accordingly.
Dumas says the administration has looked at comparable boat launch fees, but the prices range too far, and this being the first year for fees has to be kept in mind. Midnight on New Year's Eve was more than a changing of the calendar for those in Fort Frances, as the town is now taking a stance against single-use plastics. As of January 1st, the town adopted a bylaw which restricts businesses from distributing items like plastic bags and straws, as well as foam-based takeout containers. The bylaw excludes loose bulk items like wrapping flowers and transporting live fish. It was introduced to the community in 2019 and supported unanimously by council in January 2020. Councillor Douglas Judson, who imposed the bylaw, says it's been picking up a lot of support from the locals.
We live in a beautiful setting. We want to conserve that setting and protect it. So I think that, that momentum has always been there. The other piece of this is that some of the alternatives to these harmful single-use products are products that can be made using resources that we have here at our disposal.
Fines for violating the bylaw won't begin until the beginning of 2022, allowing businesses to exhaust their stock of the disposable items. A local tattoo shop collaborated with strangers from across the country and pitched in to help the kids from Nescantica have a brighter holiday season. After the First Nation community dealt with its recent water crisis and evacuation, a wish list of presents will soon be arriving at their front door or perhaps down their chimney. Dozens of gifts for the kids have been packed away on a charter flight heading towards the reserve. The majority of the donated toys came from an Amazon wish list circulated by popular social media personality Brittlestar. The folks at the Red River Trade Shop held a fundraiser in mid-December where they tattooed about 40 people over 13 hours, raising nearly $5,000. That money went in part to buying presents and also paying for the chartered flight up north.
We wanted to help out in some way, and the best way we thought was, to do a fundraiser, because we could do a lot of tattoos and make a lot of money to help some people. It didn't seem like a hard decision. Honestly, all of our artists, and even we had one artist from another shop help out as well. And as soon as, honestly, we heard what the issues were, it was easy to just kind of do it.
The plane was scheduled to land in Nescantica Friday night, with the presents being distributed to the young ones on Sunday. That's all for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.